Are all religions doing the same thing? Are they transforming people from self-centeredness to reality-centeredness? That's what John Hick thinks. Check this out. This is TenOnReligion. Hey peeps, it's Dr. B with TenOnReligion. If you like religion and philosophy content, one thing I really need you to do is to smash that sub button because it really helps out the channel. Also, if you find this content interesting, drop me a super thanks here on the YouTube machine. The transcript is available at TenOnReligion.com, and new episodes are on the way, so drop me some views. Are all religions doing the same thing? Let's talk about John Hick's pluralistic theology of religions. He was an English philosopher who taught at Claremont Graduate University in California and the University of Birmingham in England. He has written or edited over 30 books and dozens of articles. He saw the race relations in Birmingham and later visited India and Sri Lanka in the early 1970s, and both seem to have a profound effect on his understanding of Christianity. In Birmingham, he made friendships with people of other faiths and created the Interfaiths Council in January of 1975 with the first meeting in a Sikh Gurdwara with representatives from Hinduism, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, and Sikhism. Through these social interactions, he soon came to realize that there was a direct relationship between the concern of religious pluralism and the central Christian doctrine of the Incarnation. In his lived experience, an enormous paradox emerged after his relationships with people of other faiths continued to grow and develop. His two major works that were published in the 1970s, God and the Universe of Faiths and The Myth of God Incarnate, were bombshells in the Christian community. Was the concept of salvation a property only of Christianity? Were there other ways of understanding the human situation? Since Hick had studied in depth the famous groundbreaking German philosopher Immanuel Kant, he looked to him to help answer these questions. Kant referred to his own innovative theory of knowledge as a Copernican Revolution. Our minds do not conform to reality. In fact, it's the opposite. Reality conforms to our minds. This is just like the Polish astronomer Copernicus changed the way we understand the solar system. The Greek mathematician Ptolemy held that the planets, stars, and even the sun moved around the Earth. In the 1500s, Copernicus showed this to be false, and Galileo's observations in Italy in the 1600s proved Copernicus to be right. Hick's Copernican Revolution, like Kant's, wasn't a spatial one, but a conceptual one in religion involving the understanding of the universe of faiths. It was a shift from Christianity, or any religion, being at the center, to God being at the center. It was a move from what is called Christocentrism to theocentrism. Like both Copernicus and Kant, Hick's version produced a strong reaction which still exists to this day. Now a little more on Kant's philosophy, because that's not all that Hick borrows from him. Kant distinguished between objects as they appear to us and objects in and of themselves. The thoughts in our mind can access objects outside of ourselves. The philosophically technical word noumenon refers to an object in itself. A phenomenon is the same object as perceived by a human via sense perception. Hick uses the same philosophical structure as Kant in describing his pluralistic religious theory. Because Hick wants to avoid having any religion be the basis for his theory, and thus privileging them, he decides to use a very general term, the real, to represent a religious transcendent reality of ultimate status. This becomes sort of a placeholder for all religious ultimate realities or entities like God, Allah, Shiva, Brahman, the Tao, and so on. The real in itself is a noumenon, meaning it's independent of human experience or beyond human expression. This is different from the real as humanly experienced, which is the phenomenon. Clear as mud yet? Let me give you an example. So I'm a former community college professor in religion, and when I had students read excerpts from one of Hick's writings, I asked them to draw a picture on the board to represent his model. One day, a group of students drew a three-dimensional pyramid on the board. At the bottom, they wrote the names of various religions. At the top, they wrote the term the real. And then about 2/3 the way up the pyramid, they drew a large cloud such that all the religions at the bottom could not see what was at the top, or even if all of the sides eventually converged to the same point. Now, this does not mean that all religions are necessarily doing the same thing in a local sense, because obviously they're not. Hick's model is that they are all heading on a grander scale in a similar direction. Hick stated that religions are in the business of human transformation from a life of self-centeredness to reality-centeredness. Now, you might be asking, but aren't all religions actually quite different from each other? Hick would agree, but he would say the basic premise in all of them is actually quite similar. Theistic forms of religious experience do this in a personal way by focusing on a personal deity, like in forms of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Non-theistic forms of religious experience do this in a non-personal way, like in forms of Hinduism, Buddhism, and Taoism. Hick cites a couple of more things as evidence to support his theory, so let's briefly mention them to help you decide whether or not you think this model works.
Wait a minute!
The first one is the religious ambiguity of the universe. What does that mean? It means that the universe can be thought of and experienced in either a religious or a naturalistic way. It is compatible with either theism, non-theism, or atheism. Religious experiences vary, and the views through religious windows all display a different landscape. All religiously interpreted phenomena can also be explained in non-religious terms as well. For those who view the world in a religious way, the naturalistic interpretations seem wrong or reductionistic. For those who view the world in a naturalistic way, devoid of all religious elements, see religion either indifferently, as unnecessary, or in a negative way as detrimental to human society. But Hick's point is that since both options are possible and plausible, the universe is therefore religiously ambiguous. It is not entirely obvious to all humans which one it is. Second, Hick refers to the idea of saintliness. Take the best person from each religion, the best Jew, the best Hindu, the best Muslim, the best Buddhist, the best Christian, and so on. Look at their lives and what do you see? They're all great people. They have compassion towards other people. They model forgiveness, generosity, self-sacrificing concern, and engage in charitable activities in order to change their respective social and political cultures. They are people in whom the transformation from self-centeredness to reality-centeredness is much more pronounced than most other people like you or me. So how can one possibly use this as a criterion to suggest that one religion is the most effective or closer to the truth? In a similar way, Hick mentions the golden rule, treating others as having the same value as oneself. Basically, all religions have some version of this recorded in their scriptures. If these ethical principles are embodied in the teachings of all the great religious traditions, then how can they be compared on this basis? If their moral values are similar, then this lends credence to Hick's pluralistic hypothesis as the more likely case, rather than any of the traditions attempting to make an exclusive case for themselves and themselves alone as the one true religion. Despite the fact that each of the religious traditions has been responsible for evil actions committed in the name of their traditions, and they all have done this, they are still mixtures of good and evil, with no one tradition stated as morally superior to any of the others. Hick terms salvation liberation as human transformation, from a problem to a goal. He describes this in general terms as transforming oneself from self-centeredness to reality-centeredness. Specifically, this means engaging with the real in a particular religious tradition's understanding of it through their stories, rituals, and all other forms of practice within the context of a religious community. If you're a bit of an academic and want the whole enchilada, his major work is titled An Interpretation of Religion. Buy a new or used copy or try to get one through your local library. There's, of course, a lot more detail in Hick's model, and it's really explained more in depth there. So what did you think about John Hick's pluralistic theory of religions? Are all religions ultimately heading in the same moral direction in terms of leading humans on a journey from self-centeredness to reality-centeredness? Or is this an overly simplistic interpretation of religion? Leave a comment below and let me know what you think. And again, if this was in any way helpful, drop me a super thanks. Until next time, stay curious. If you enjoyed this, support the channel. In the link below, please like and share this video. And subscribe to this channel. This is TenOnReligion.